The story begins when the main character, Akemitsu Akegami, is a little boy. His father explains why having multiple partners is better to having just one. He then compares intimate relationships with friendships, and after that abandons his son and leaves. Akemitsu looks at his father as extremely cool at that age. We then see Akegami's teenage years. He, like his father, is obsessed with women's bodies. His father's abandonment, on the other hand, undoubtedly left a scar on him. As a result, he steers clear of women. When his friends invite him to mixers or other social events where he might meet a girl, he refuses. He thinks about his future plans while walking one day. He expresses the desire to pass the civil service examinations in order to have a consistent source of income. He also expresses a desire to avoid women. Surprisingly, a woman drops a rice bag on him unintentionally. He thinks the woman in question is stunning and is completely in love with her. He then rushes home because he refuses to give in to earthly desires. For the next few days, Akemitsu can't get the woman he met out of his mind. He goes too far and he ends up attending mixers with his friends and skipping classes. We see him rapidly lose control. When confronted with reality, he goes overboard once again. He makes the decision to quit his secular life and become a monk. With the help of his uncle, he secures a position in a temple. When Akemitsu comes at the temple, he is welcomed by the woman who inspired him to become a monk. He is still totally in love with her and immediately asks her to marry him. The woman believes he is her suitor because she is being set up for an arranged marriage. She realizes, however, after speaking with her mother, that Akemitsu is not her future husband. This causes a lot of confusion and chaos. The temple was recently converted into a nunnery, and Akemitsu's uncle was not aware of the change. The nunnery women ask Akemitsu to stay in exchange for manual labor assistance. He refuses the offer, saying that he has already caused havoc. When he comes at the railway station, the last train has already departed. The woman he is interested in then appears. She informs him that she was aware of the last train leaving and has come to take him to the temple. They get along well and have a great conversation. She then introduces herself as Aoba Yuzuki. When he introduces himself, she recognizes his surname. Akemitsu is dragged back to the temple by Yuzuki. His father stole money from the temple and fled. According to the women, they tell him that he must repay the debt with his body. Yuzuki explains her earlier remarks. She goes on to clarify that Akemitsu must work for them in the temple until he has paid them back with his work. Most of the nuns are not happy with her decision. After this, Kiki-san, a nun, conspires with the other women, requesting that Tsukuyo, the second daughter, seduce Akemitsu and throw him out. Tsukuyo pays Akemitsu a visit while he is bathing. She then tries to seduce him, but he rejects. When an accident is about to occur, he saves her. Yuzuki enters and notices Tsukuyo and Akemitsu's accidental kiss. She then asks Akemitsu to get out. Akemitsu feels embarrassed by what happened and walks away from the temple. Meanwhile, the nuns at the nunnery are happy that he is leaving. Tsukuyo, on the other hand, gets carried away by guilt. She pays Yuzuki a visit in her room. Yuzuki then finds that Akemitsu has permanently left the nunnery. At this point, she is also aware of the women's planning. Yuzuki and Tsukuyo move Akemitsu to the nunnery. Kurage, the third daughter, then tells him about Yuzuki's previous life as a moron. He unintentionally says, "I want to know everything." He feels embarrassed when she shoves him into the bathroom where Yuzuki and Tsukuyo are showering. After that, Yuzuki tells Kurage to stop bothering Akemitsu. In the next scene, we see Miya, who is unhappy with Akemitsu's presence in the temple. She challenges him to a duel and threatens to castrate him as a punishment. Yuzuki and Tsukuyo try to stop her, but she was determined to fight him. Akemitsu happily accepted her challenge and confronted Miya. They both introduced themselves. Kagura was Miya's attendant, and she introduced herself as Miya's big sister, but she wasn't. Miya attacked and cut Akemitsu's hair, but he didn't want to hurt her, so he used his secret bare-handed sword-stopping technique. Miya is defeated after one of her bandages covering her chest becomes loose in a disaster, which means that it was time for Akemitsu to decide her penalty. To assist Akemitsu, Kagura took out a punishment book that recorded the worst punishments. She suggested one of them to Miya, who agreed to accept it. Akemitsu stopped them and said he wanted something else. He pointed at the book of penalty, but Miya thought that he pointed towards her melons. She was unwilling and she ran away in embarrassment. Miya pays Akemitsu a visit later that night while he was sleeping. She offers her melons as compensation for losing the duel. She feels extremely embarrassed after he clarifies that he wanted the book, not her melons. As a result, she runs away once again. Kagura helps him track down Miya. After that, she locks them in a room to work out their differences. Akemitsu discovered that they couldn't escape from the window and no one could hear their shouts, hence they needed to stay there until the morning. Akemitsu found a blanket. Miya didn't want to touch anything touched by a boy. She sneezed, so Akemitsu insisted on getting her the blanket. Mia pushed him away and burst into tears. When she calmed down, Akemitsu asked her why she acted out of character in his room earlier. Mia revealed that it was her true personality and that's why she came to Japan. She was from a wealthy family, and as a child, her mother advised her to surround herself with attractive men. Mia thought it was cool when she was in elementary school, and because of that Mia wanted to make 100 lovers like her mother, but her strange behavior caused the other children to avoid her. When she realized what had happened, it was too late. Her only friend, Kagura, suggested that they join the temple and become monks. When Akemitsu revealed his own story, they discovered that they shared many similarities and became good friends. Yuzuki is reminded the next morning that she has an appointment with her suitor that day. She'd completely forgotten about it, and now she's late. Following that, Akemitsu follows her. On their way to the location, they face many problems. We also learn that in order for them to save the temple, Yuzuki must marry the suitor. The bus had already left. Akemitsu borrowed a scooter from an unknown person. With his experience as a delivery boy, he knew all the shortcuts. The fuel on the scooter runs out. Yuzuki mistook a truck for a bus, and they got in. There was only half an hour left for the meeting, and Akemitsu promised to help Yuzuki reach on time. He had kimono changing experience from one of his jobs, as well as driving experience. They decided to break the truck's door, and after doing so, they borrowed the truck from its driver. Hiki had informed Yuzuki that the temple would be closed in a year, and it would take 3 years for Yuzuki to become head priest to solve this problem. Yuzuki intended to hire a matchmaker, but Akemitsu slammed the truck into a tree as soon as they arrived. Yuzuki entered the temple for the matchmaking meeting, and Akemitsu wished her luck. A nun then found Akemitsu and mistook him for a monk, so she took him inside to clean the temple. Yuzuki greeted Kijo. He was the person she was going to meet. Yuzuki told him that she treats the people in the temple as if they were her family, and that she was here for them. When she saw Akemitsu cleaning the garden, they both became nervous. Kijo told her to calm down and called Akemitsu, who was appointed as the matchmaker between Yuzuki and Kijo. Akemitsu began asking questions. The meeting continued, but Akemitsu fainted because his heart was bleeding from the answers. Kijo told Yuzuki that based on his observations, Akemitsu was a reliable person. Yuzuki recalled her mother telling her not to lie. In the flashback, Hiki and Yuzuki came up with a plan to use Kijo to keep the temple open and then break off the engagement. She then goes on and tells Kijo of her plan, and apologizes to him. Kijo refuses to help Yuzuki, but Akemitsu comes to the rescue. He promises Kijo that he will be there for Yuzuki and the temple until the very end. He goes on to tell Kijo that Yuzuki and the temple saved him and that he wants to repay them in whatever way he can. Akemitsu's gesture surprised Kijo. He then agrees for the engagement. Akimitsu and Yuzuki are on their way home. The last train, however, has already left and there are no taxis available. After that, they get into a love hotel. In the hotel, things become awkward for them. They can't control their lustful thoughts, which complicates things. Akegaomi ties himself so he doesn't take advantage of Yuzuki. Yuzuki put on a blindfold on Akemitsu and slept quietly in the bed, ignoring his calls for help. Akemitsu and Yuzuki return from the love hotel the next day. When Tsukuyo asks if anything happened while they were together, they both look at each other suspiciously. This makes her doubt their truthfulness. Tsukuyo and Yuzuki then leave for school, and she tells Yuzuki not to reveal that Akemitsu lives with them at school because it could damage their temple's reputation. Tsukuyo's friends Mana and Yuki tell her that they saw her kissing Akemitsu. Tsukuyo tries to explain that it didn't happen, but both girls tease her, making her feel embarrassed. Akemitsu shows up at school because Tsukuyo forgot to bring her lunch. She gets nervous when she sees him. She takes him to the nursing room like a ninja without drawing any attention. She told him to be quiet and stay in the nursing room because it was gym period. Suddenly, Mana and Yuki enter the nursing room. Luckily, Tsukuyo is able to hide Akemitsu under the blanket before they enter. He overhears Tsukuyo's classmates talking about her break from archery. However, the classmates find Akemitsu with Tsukuyo, embarrassing her once again. In the next scene we see Akegaomi speaking to Tsukuyo about her break from archery. After avoiding the question for some time, she told him that she could not rejoin the archery club because Yuzuki had selflessly left the club for the temple. She believed Yuzuki was more talented than her, but she forced herself to give up archery for the temple. That's why Tsukuyo couldn't bring herself to be selfish and do whatever she wanted. Akemitsu held her hands and took her to the temple, where Yuzuki was practicing archery. Tsukuyo quickly realizes that she believed Yuzuki was good at archery because she was blinded by her love for Yuzuki, but in reality she is terrible at it. Tsukuyo agrees to rejoin the archery club after learning that Yuzuki didn't give up archery for family reason, but because she is a terrible archer. Tsukuyo forgets her lunchbox again the next day. This time, when Akemitsu brings her lunchbox to school, she introduces him as a member of the family. Kurige was writing a diary in her room, and we learn that Kiki told her to keep a diary because it helps with self-awareness. She wrote about herself, saying she was almost in high school and considered herself a fine adult woman, but she wanted to grow more. She also introduces her cat, Nyagosuke. She went on to say that the most exciting thing that happened recently was Akemitsu's arrival at the temple, and that he treated her like a real grown woman, which impressed her. Yuzuki finished her bath and looked at her weight on the meter. She was terrified to see that it had increased. After that, the temple girls held a meeting to discuss their concerns about weight gain. They say that there was a curse in the temple, which shows a higher value in the weight meter, and this has been happening since Akemitsu's arrival. After more discussions, they justify it by claiming that they are simply growing and that the weight gain is most likely normal. Akemitsu then comes and offers the girls his homemade sweets. The girls are unable to resist enjoying the delicious foods. The next morning, the girl began exercising and went to their daily work. They were exhausted by the end of the day and began to discuss another solution. Yuzuki said that the only way to solve their problem was to start dieting. Later that day, Yuzuki requests Akemitsu to make salad for the girls' lunch. Yuzuki does this in order for her and the other girls to lose weight. Soon after, Akemitsu notices her using an axe. He then concludes that she intends to murder him. Yuzuki looks quiet and eats her food alone at lunch. This heightens Akemitsu's concerns. Later that day, he finds out she is training to be the high priest. After that, Akegami and Miya join Yuzuki for her training under Kiki-san. Hicho came to see them the next day because he wanted to see the family in temple. Hiki simply told him to leave and says that Yuzuki was her student and that she would turn her into a high priest in 6 months. Hicho announced that Yuzuki must do it within 3 months or else he would cancel the engagement. Because of the new deadline, Hiki-san begins Takudo training. Akemitsu and Miya join Yuzuki. Hiki asks about the color of their underwear, explaining that training involves returning your body and mind to a blank white state, including undergarments. Hiki orders the trainees to go commando because they don't have white underwears. This causes issues for the trainees because they are shy and easily affected by worldly thoughts. They then practice writing sutras. Akemitsu had beautiful handwriting, which was essential for a head priest. Hiki-san asked Akemitsu to teach Yuzuki while she was away. However, when Akemitsu went to assist, he was filled with worldly thoughts and spilled ink on his pants. Miya was drawn to the sight. Yuzuki stopped her and gave Akemitsu a good beating. Later that night, Hiki-san orders Akemitsu, Yuzuki, and Miya asleep in the same room as part of their training. It creates great discomfort for the trio, and they end up not sleeping at all. The next day, Kiki-san orders Akemitsu, Yuzuki, and Miya to spend time together in the sauna in order to develop resistance to the opposite gender. Yuzuki was wondering if sleeping together was really the part of training. Miya revealed that she discovered Adam's apple fetish. She was attracted to Adam's apple, and Akemitsu revealed that he was excited all night long. Both were embarrassed after saying that. Akemitsu and Miya asked about Yuzuki's worldly thoughts. Yuzuki couldn't tell them she had thoughts about Akemitsu's body and the things she saw in the Love Hotel. However, she said that she has no pervy thoughts. After hearing this, Akemitsu and Miya went to inform Kiki that she had completed the training. Soon after, Yuzuki admits to herself that Akemitsu and Miya's growing closeness is making her anxious. Kiki-san gives the trio the last task of relaxing. Miya then admits that she misses Kurige and wishes she could spend more time with her. Yuzuki soon notices Akemitsu is unhappy because it is Christmas Eve. Every Christmas Eve, his father would divide his love between his lovers, resulting in a bloodbath in Akemitsu's house. Akemitsu is afraid of the holiday. Yuzuki takes Akemitsu shopping for gifts in order to ease Akemitsu's stress. The shop owner confuses Yuzuki and Akemitsu as a couple while shopping for gifts. This creates tension between the two, but they manage to overcome it. On Christmas Eve, the girls were seen talking about the impact Akemitsu has had on them all. At first, they were all plotting how to drive Akemitsu out of the temple. However, now that they wanted him to stay at the temple forever, they realized that Akemitsu's arrival was the biggest change in their lives. Kagura stood up and left the room. She whispered to herself how interesting Akemitsu was, but she found him to be a real annoyance. Kagura made the decision to drive Akemitsu out of the temple. Everyone held a Christmas party at the temple, and Akemitsu cooked a delicious meal for the girls. Kurige asked him to marry her. Tsukuyo and Yuzuki tried to stop him, because Kurige was serious about it. After everyone had finished their dinner, it was time to exchange gifts. and they couldn't be happier. On the other hand, Akemitsu can't wait to give Yuzuki the gift he's chosen especially for her. It was Akemitsu's first Christmas party, and he was devastated to learn that the gifts were randomized. Akemitsu wanted to give the gifts to each of them individually. Everyone chose their gifts. Kurage got gloves, which were gifted by Tsukuyo. Tsukuyo got a doll, but it was a different kind of doll gifted by Yuzuki. Yuzuki got a marriage registration certificate gifted by Kurage, hoped for Akemitsu to get that. Kagura, Akemitsu, and Miya drew their own gifts. Kagura and Akemitsu decided to exchange gifts. Kagura gave Akemitsu a DVD, saying it contained Miya's naughty photos. Yuzuki told Akemitsu to give the DVD to her. Akemitsu was reluctant, but he still handed it over. Kagura revealed that it was just a joke. Her real gift was free tickets to a hot spring. Everyone was excited to go to the hot springs. After that, we see Akemitsu and Yuzuki bringing Santa a few goodies. Following that, they exchanged prayer beads as a present. In Buddhist tradition, exchanging prayer beads is similar to tying the knot. When they finally realize this, they become awkward around each other. Kiki walked in and told them there was a problem with Yuzuki's Takuyu ceremony. The ceremony was held at the temple, and there was also an inspection before the sect meeting. And their temple's main figure was broken, which could result in the sect meeting being called off immediately. We saw earlier that Kagura gives spa vouchers to everyone at the temple. As a result, the ladies, joined by Akemitsu, decide to redeem their vouchers and spend the day at the spa. The girls are seen having fun at the spa while wearing minimal clothing. Akemitsu was already there when they arrived. He goes into hiding as if to spare their feelings. It doesn't take long for us to realize that Kagura is the mastermind behind this prank. She then has a discussion with the girls about what to do if Akemitsu comes in. After that, Akemitsu admits his presence. After a warning, his mistake is quickly forgotten. Everyone else except Kagura, Miya, and Akemitsu leaves later that day. Kagura is then seen right away attempting to seduce Akemitsu. When Miya walks in on them, Kagura manages to hypnotize her. After this, Akemitsu found himself tied to a chair. Kagura introduced herself as a member of the Baldwin family. The Baldwins were born to be the Christoph family's devoted companions. When Akemitsu tried to convince her to assist Miya, Kagura told him that he and Miya were simply running from their families. She offered to save the temple by donating money and repairing the temple's main statue, but only if Akemitsu agreed to leave the temple. Akemitsu was left alone to think about it. In the next scene we see Akemitsu practicing Takudo with Yuzuki, Miya, and Tsukuyo. Their education is full of sexual innuendos and graphic scenes. Akemitsu cooks dinner for the temple girls later that night. Kiki-san, on the other hand, doesn't show up for dinner. After that, Akemitsu goes in search of her, and when he finds her, he serves her food. During dinner, she says Akemitsu that she plans to leave the temple once Yuzuki becomes the head priest. She then asks Akemitsu if he wants to accompany her or stay behind. Kiki-san, who is drunk, begins to seduce Akemitsu while he is thinking. After that, Akemitsu walks away embarrassed. The girls and Akemitsu go to a shrine on the new year. Here, Akemitsu is haunted by Kagura's orders from the previous episode, in which she asked him to leave the temple in exchange for her giving all of his temple's debts. Despite the fact that her offer is appealing, Akemitsu declines it because he recalls his promise that he will always stay by Yuzuki's side forever. After that, Akemitsu notices Kagura's genuine concern for Miya. Kagura initially dismisses it, believing that she only wants Miya to have a lot of sex partners in order to follow in her family's footsteps. Kagura realizes that she probably adores Miya when Miya hugs and praises her in front of everyone. We see Akemitsu open his eyes the next morning. Yuzuki comes, and she is excited to begin the day. Yuzuki then tells Akemitsu that she has to leave, leaving him alone with Miya, Kurage, and Kagura. When Akemitsu hears Kagura's name, he becomes terrified. As Akemitsu walks out of his room, he runs into Miya. When Miya mentions Kagura shortly after, he shows extreme fear. Miya then locks Akemitsu and Kagura in a room so that they can reunite. In the room, Kagura considers fabricating accusations against Akemitsu in order to have him expelled from the temple. She eventually decides she wants him to fall for Miya and begins plotting accordingly. Miya later says to Tsukuyo and Kagura that she has no feelings for Akemitsu after being directly asked about it. However, she admits that she finds him quite attractive. Later that day, while he prepares food in the kitchen, Akemitsu finds that they have run out of rice. After this, Yuzuki offers to take him and Miya to the temple's debtors to collect rice. After 2 failed attempts, a parishioner agrees to give Yuzuki, Akemitsu, and Miya some rice. As he carries the sack of rice back to the temple, Akemitsu recalls the first time he saw Yuzuki. Yuzuki is now walking down the street while carrying an entire bundle of rice bags on her head. While she walks, Akemitsu and Miya stand behind her, amazed at her incredible skills. The next thing we see is that a ceremony is about to take place. Hiki-san emphasizes that despite Yuzuki's best efforts, problems may arise if the main figure is not fixed. Following that, it is revealed that $500,000 will be required to repair the main figure in question. Hiki-san and Akemitsu are just two of many people who are concerned. Yuzuki, on the other hand, is confident in her capacity to raise the funds and promises to do so. Akemitsu has already begun planning the best way to help Yuzuki by the middle of the day. His solution involves the use of a cell phone. When he realizes he shouldn't be using the temple's phone, he goes to Yuzuki's room to ask for hers. When Akemitsu offers to help Yuzuki, she says she'll be able to collect the money by working 5 to 6 jobs. He is now adamant about helping her because he can tell she is tired. Yuzuki, on the other hand, insists that she is not. Tsukuyo enters the room unexpectedly. After making a big fuss about it, Yuzuki finally tells Akemitsu that it's none of his business. This upsets him, and he eventually asks Tsukuyo to go out with him. Tsukuyo is confused about whether her mind is playing tricks on her or if Akemitsu truly asked her out. Akemitsu unexpectedly compliments Tsukuyo while they are outside. The next step is to purchase a new phone for Akemitsu. Tsukuyo wishes she could tell Akemitsu how she feels, but she settles for his phone number instead. After this, we see Akemitsu sends Tsukuyo a message to thank her for her help throughout the day. The following scene is a flashback to Yuzuki's childhood. Yuzuki was shown with her mother when she was a child. Her ambition is to become the Mikazuki Temple's high priest one day, which she expresses to her mother. The scene shifts as she begins to explain why to her mother. The story then shifts to the present day. Yuzuki and Akemitsu want to make amends and settle their differences after their argument. Later that day, Kiki-san informs Yuzuki that her training has been temporarily stopped for now. Yuzuki is perplexed as her drive to complete the course overwhelms her. After this, Akemitsu starts following Kiki-san around the town, hoping to convince her to train Yuzuki again. Kiki-san, on the other hand, refuses to train Yuzuki until she learns from her mistakes. Tsukuyo then contacts Akemitsu as a result of this. She informs him that Yuzuki has vanished. As a result, Akemitsu begins looking for Yuzuki everywhere, but he is unable to find her. In the end, Akemitsu thinks Kiki-san's remarks, which suggested that Yuzuki's apparent happiness was an act. As a result, Akemitsu decides to take a chance and search for her under the bridge. When Akemitsu comes under the bridge, he notices Yuzuki. Yuzuki is clearly in a vulnerable position right now. At this point, Akemitsu and Yuzuki share a tender moment. Yuzuki comes home after she is seen feeling ill. Akemitsu can be seen attending to her needs. When Yuzuki finally opens her eyes, Akemitsu is there to convince her of the importance of having people on her side. Yuzuki then tells Kiki-san that she made a mistake in prioritizing her self-reliance over the protection of the Buddhist temple. Yuzuki then accepts help from Akemitsu and the other temple girls. Kiki-san promises to resume Yuzuki's training once she recovers. In the final moments of the season, Akemitsu and the temple girls are seen helping Yuzuki. Also, Yuzuki graciously accepts assistance and the episode ends. And that's how the season 1 comes to an end. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Let me know what you think about this anime in the comments. And as always, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all in the next video.